Hey, welcome back to the show. In today's episode, we are going to strictly talk about Venezuela as the Trump administration continues to ramp up pressure against the Maduro regime. But before we do, take a look at the latest strike against drug boats.
Tonight, there was another deadly strike on a suspected drug boat, killing 4. This one in the eastern Pacific, closer to Colombia. This brings to 99 the number killed in these boat strikes, with no evidence made public that these boats are carrying drugs.
So the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, and the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, briefed the Senate and they briefed the House. In that brief, they detailed and outlined exactly how they pick these targets, what type of intelligence they gather, and what safety measures and parameters they have in place to ensure that they are not targeting boats that are carrying innocent people. In other words, the intelligence collection procedures that they utilize in order to select the targets. I've told you guys in previous videos that the assets that we use out there now, I've used in war in Afghanistan. And before we strike any target, there is an immense amount of intelligence collection that occurs before any strike. And remember, a lawyer also has to approve that strike before it's executed. So let's take a look at what the Secretary of State had to say after he briefed the Senate.
All right, thank you guys. Obviously, we had a classified hearing, so the details of which we can't discuss. It's, I believe, our 22nd or 23rd bipartisan engagement. We'll continue to engage with Congress on this. We're headed to the House now to do a similar briefing and provide updates on this counter-drug mission, which is focused on dismantling the infrastructure of these terrorist organizations that are operating in our hemisphere, undermining the security of Americans, killing Americans, poisoning Americans. And this has been a highly successful mission that's ongoing and continued, and we're pleased to be here today to update Congress on how that's developing and how that's moving forward.
I think one of the most important parts about that clip is the fact that the Secretary of State stated that it was the 22nd or 23rd bipartisan brief that they were giving lawmakers. I think that's very important to note because it shows the transparency between the Secretary of War, the Secretary of State, and lawmakers. So now let's hear what the Democrats had to say about the brief.
The administration cannot keep their story straight on why they are there and why they will not release the video, this part of the video of the attack. The only way this problem gets resolved is to make it public, let everyone see it. There's nothing there that the American public should not be able to see other than the possibility of accountability for the people who made this decision.
The American people absolutely need to see this video. I think they would be shocked, sickened, even ashamed by this second video. And there is no justification for withholding this second video when the other videos have already been shown. There are no sources and methods that would be compromised. And I was just really deeply disturbed, even shocked.
I think we all expected that. We expected the Democrats to say that the video needs to be released to the American people. They continue to forget the fact that most Americans don't care about what's going on in Venezuela. They care about the affordability issue that's happening in this country. That's what they care about. But the Democrats don't have anything else to focus on except this. This is why the party is in disarray. This is why the party is hurting. They have no voice. They have no direction. They have no focus. And at the same time, they continue to press and say that these strikes are illegal. In other words, what they're saying is that everybody in the military is incompetent, that they are incapable of saying no to unlawful orders. They are incapable of doing what's right. And that is exactly the reason why they released that video stating what they said, telling military service members to disobey unlawful orders, something that they know they're supposed to do like the back of their hand. Well, we all expected this. We all expected the Democrats to cling on to something. Now let's hear what the Republicans had to say.
We've been conducting thousands of strikes like this for years. It's not pretty for folks in this body, very few of whom have served, even fewer have served in combat. Seeing people get killed on video is not fun, and they don't like the messy reality that we kill bad guys, and that's our job.
Yeah, so we just received a briefing from the Secretary of War and the Secretary of State and our top military officials on the strikes against the narco-terrorists off the coast of Venezuela. Questions are still being answered by members, but I think the information that was provided was very helpful. It affirms what many of us have already known, and I'm going to share some thoughts with you about what was shared in there, but ultimately the big question about what authority supports all this. The President of the United States has directed these actions consistent with his responsibility. And that responsibility is clear: to protect Americans and United States interest abroad, and in furtherance of the United States national security and foreign policy interest, pursuant to his constitutional authority. He has that authority as Commander-in-Chief and as the Chief Executive to conduct foreign relations.
I think one important part about what the speaker was talking about was the fact that he mentioned that we've lost more lives to drugs than we have to enemy actions in World War II, Vietnam, Korea, Iraq, and Afghanistan combined. Drugs continue to decimate the American people. Every time you hear these Democrats protest these strikes, it just sounds like they're just trying to dig for something. They're trying to find something to cling on to so that they can say, well, look, we told you so. The Trump administration is doing completely illegal things when it comes to international waters, when it comes to foreign policy. But in reality, the president has the authority to do everything that he's doing under Article 2. But there is one voice of reason within the Democrat Party, one voice of reason that I know about. I don't know of any other voice of reason, and that is Senator John Fetterman. So let's listen to Senator Fetterman's interpretation of what he heard in the brief.
Well, I think what's happening right now is consistent. And I think that, to me, it's not unreasonable to compare that to what President Obama has been doing, during his presidency. And he was using drone hits, and he took out thousands of people and terrorists. And I, of course, if I was in the Senate at that time, I would have supported those as well, too. And there is extensive cooperation with nations in the region. And these are not just random strikes. They know exactly that it's in, and that's not, and again, it's been very clear that they decline on often kinds of boats when they can't be absolutely sure exactly what's on it and who's on it, including no women and children or anything.
So Senator Fetterman is completely on board when it comes to the actions we're taking there, the legality of the actions that we're taking there, the intelligence that we are utilizing to ensure we don't strike the wrong targets, the safeguards that we have in place, and everything else about the operations that we're engaging in around Venezuela. So he is okay with all of that. In one of the previous clips, you guys heard one of the senators talk about a lot of these senators and a lot of these congressmen not seeing combat. Let me tell you, these videos are not for public consumption. The public does not want to see people blasted, guts all over the place. I just don't understand the infatuation with these politicians wanting to make this video public. But let's talk about the hypocrisy from the Democrats. When President Obama was in office, he conducted over 500 drone strikes, killed over 3,700 people. I'll repeat that again. Over 500 drone strikes, killed over 3,700 people. That includes a 16-year-old boy and 2 Americans. Where was the outcry then? I didn't hear anybody saying anything about that. Why weren't the Democrats calling out their own president? 3,700 people were killed. The only reason they're doing that now is because President Trump is in office. Trump derangement syndrome is real. I think the Democrats need a reality check. I think they need to realize that the American people don't care about Venezuela right now. Remember, 70% of Americans don't even know enough about what's happening over there in Venezuela to make a judgment call on whether we should be taking action against them. Now let's listen to the opposition leader, Maria Corina Machado, and what she thinks about what Trump is doing.
We do support these actions because, Margaret, we are facing not a conventional dictatorship. This is a very complex criminal structure that has turned Venezuela into a safe haven of international crime and terrorist activities, starting with Russia, Iran, Cuba, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Colombian guerrilla, the drug cartels operating freely and directed in partnership with Maduro and his regime.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Venezuelan people are asking for our help. The 8 million Venezuelans that had to leave their country due to Maduro's tyranny, to his violence, to his oppression, they are asking for our help. They are asking us to help liberate their country. And because of that, President Trump has now ordered more ships to be sanctioned, more ships to be seized, and authorized a total and complete blockade of Venezuela.
A lot of action taken yesterday. Here's how the administration is ramping up their pressure against Maduro's regime. First off, let's take a look at the region. We have 2 places we're hitting, the Caribbean and we're hitting the Pacific. We've had 14 hits in the Pacific. We've had 11 in the Caribbean. These are roughly the places we're doing it. This is Venezuela. This is Colombia. Where are our assets? These are our ships. This is 15% of our armada. This is about 15,000 troops as well. They're located on these various bases in the region from Puerto Rico to Trinidad and Tobago. And this is where they plan on implementing the blockade.
Now, I've never shied away from telling you guys that this is about oil as well, and I'll talk about that in the end. But it's also about the geopolitical threat that exists within Venezuela. Remember, China, Iran, Hamas, and other terrible actors have tremendous influence in Venezuela. That means that people that seek to do us harm are right in our backyard. If you guys remember in a previous video, I told you that China had a trade surplus of $1 trillion. The way they do that is by getting everything cheap. One thing that they're getting cheap is oil from Venezuela. Take a look.
Who's getting this discounted oil? Guess what? China, by a staggering amount. Yeah, we get some. If you look at our color over here, yeah, we get some. But this is who benefits. And that's why China, in our backyard, getting discounted oil does not work for us, does not work for our national security, and certainly doesn't work for, but does work for one country, and that is Venezuela, led by Maduro.
If we expect to maintain our status as the singular hegemon, the most powerful country in the world, we've got to weaken China, we've got to continue weakening Iran, and anybody else that seeks to do us harm. So once again, having these bad actors in our backyard presents a national security threat. It is a geopolitical threat for us. But don't tell that to the left-wing legacy media, because that's not the way they're going to see it. They see the increased pressure on Venezuela as a distraction. Take a look.
One thing he's likely trying to turn the focus away from, that explosive Vanity Fair interview with his chief of staff, Susie Wiles. People still trying to wrap their heads around what was said on the record in this lengthy series of interviews. One of the more and many eyebrow-raising things about what that was said was about those strikes on alleged drug boats off the coast of Venezuela. The Trump administration has maintained that those strikes are aimed at stopping drugs from reaching the United States. But Susie Wiles says on the record now that they're more about the country's leader, saying that Trump, quote, wants to keep on blowing boats up until Maduro cries uncle.
Yes, we are trying to make Maduro cry uncle. We're trying to make him do a lot more than that. Remember, this guy is a tyrant. Who cares that she said that? Because that's exactly what we're trying to do. We are trying to end his reign of terror. Now, in response to the blockade, Maduro has now said that he's going to send his Navy to escort these oil tankers in and out. How do you think that's going to go for him? I think there's three primary reasons we're in Venezuela right now. And I think Secretary Rubio has done a tremendous job of expressing those three reasons. The first one is because of a geopolitical threat. China, Iran, Hamas, all these terrorist organizations, not to mention the narco-terrorists that are operating within Venezuela freely, present a clear and present danger to the United States of America. We cannot allow that to continue to happen. The second reason we're there is because of the mass exodus of Venezuelans that left the country. Where did most of those Venezuelans end up? Here in the United States. And let me tell you, a lot of those Venezuelans are dying to go back to Venezuela, but not in the condition that the country is in right now. We want to free Venezuela for the Venezuelan people. But at the same time, there's a correlation to that reason and the next, which is the oil. The United States of America needs Venezuelan oil. Imagine the economic impact that having access to 300 billion barrels of oil is going to have on the United States.
In the last few years, the amount of light oil being produced in the US has gone up and up and up, and the amount of kind of heavy stuff has gone down. But back to those refineries. They need to be fed. If America's going to have gasoline, it needs to feed those refineries with heavy oil. So if you look at the kind of imports coming into America, in recent years, even though America is producing so much oil, more oil than it ever produced before, it still needs to suck in loads of oil from overseas. And the type of oil we're talking about, it used to be, it's mostly heavy crude. It used to be only 12%. So only 12% of imports were heavy, gloopy crude. Now, it's about 70%. So 70% of the oil coming into America, which it needs to basically keep its economy going, is heavy crude. And where does heavy crude come from? Well, here are some of the big countries where you find most of it. It's Canada and Venezuela.
And there it is. The heavy crude oil that we need comes from Venezuela, right? Two places it mostly comes from, Canada and Venezuela. And right now we can't access that oil in Venezuela. Why? Because Maduro's in power. Who's accessing most of that oil? Our geopolitical enemy, China. Once we remove Maduro, we're going to have the majority of access to that oil, that crude, heavy oil that the United States needs to keep its economy pumping. So President Trump's move here is not a political one, it's an economic one. President Trump is a transactional leader. Do you think he's going to be doing all of this if he didn't understand that we were going to have complete and total access to that crude oil? Of course he wouldn't. Remember, he treats this country like a business. His first question when he negotiates with any other country or he talks about the economy is, what's in it for the United States of America? And let me tell you, whatever expenditure we have in Venezuela, whatever it takes to free the country, we're not only going to get all of that back, we're going to get that back tenfold. This whole operation that's happening right now is going to be funded by Venezuela. This is why I say that this is a worthwhile economic gamble for the United States of America. All right, that's it for today's short episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please let me know in the comment section below. What do you think about America's move in Venezuela? Are we doing the right thing? Are we doing the wrong thing? Should we look to free the Venezuelan people, or should we just look the other way? You guys tell me in the comment section. Like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay balanced.